Can you imagine feeling like second best for your entire life? Oh my goodness. What's up, family? Welcome to another episode of What's That?
Sister Chat.
Right. So, guys, during The Voice Australia, Kelly Rowland of Destiny's Child and of Kelly Rowland herself made a somewhat shocking, but kind of not shocking admission, right? So she announced that as she was helping coach one of the contestants, that she has spent nearly a decade, 10 years, with a very heavy weight on her. And that weight was that she had felt like she had been living in the shadows of her former group member, Beyoncé Knowles, as she was a part of Destiny's Child. So for those of youngins here listening, Kelly Rowland was in a group called Destiny's Child, aka DC3, aka the best group in the land. Anyways, and you know, she said that she was also in this group was Beyoncé, of course, and Michelle Williams. So Kelly made this announcement, and you know, people were somewhat shocked, but not really, because like, you know, but I want to know what you guys' thoughts were in regards to this admission that Kelly made. So, but before we get into like everything, first of all, I just want to know, did you guys feel the way that Kelly felt, that she was actually in Beyonce's shadow when she was in Destiny's Child? Cece?
I kind of felt like this was gonna end up in my court. You know, here's my opinion. Perception is reality, right? Like I've been there. I've lived my life and felt like I was in someone's shadow before. I have coaching clients that I work with all the time, and this is like a constant story that so many of us live with, is this idea that we're not good enough, which is what I think it all boils down to anyways. So in my opinion, was Kelly living in Beyonce's shadow? Not necessarily, but my opinion doesn't matter in this situation. It's totally hers, and for her, her perception was reality, and for a decade, that's what she felt like.
Okay, and I could dig that. What about you? What do you think, Shells?
I agree with Cece. Perception is everything. I could kind of see where she's coming from, just from the whole hyped up. You know, they hyped up Beyonce a lot in the group. So I can see where she's coming from. Like Beyonce was like the fan favorite, I guess, for most people. So I can see her feeling that way.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead, Cece.
No, go ahead, Trish, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, you know, I think that I don't know if like people really hyped up Beyonce, because like for me, my memory of Destiny's Child was like Destiny's Child. It was for me, like it was never Beyonce. It wasn't Beyonce until Beyonce left and became Beyonce. Like it was Destiny's Child for me. And then of course, once Beyonce became Beyonce, everybody was like, you know, y'all remember we had that Destiny's Child concert that probably shouldn't have brought that. One time we had dressed up and then we had sang Destiny's Child songs, and Shantae was there. I'm just saying.
Shantae was there and it was lit.
but okay, but like that was when I feel like people would be like, oh, okay, who are you in the group? Oh, I'm Beyonce. After Beyonce became, you know, on her own, and they kind of branched out. I think that management maybe made her feel, you know, and not made her feel, because no one can make you feel anything, but like, you know, maybe perpetuated that idea, because of course, you know, that was Beyonce's dad, and you know, so it was, you know, yeah, of course you're gonna want your offspring to be the one that's like getting the shine. So I think that maybe that, because even like, you know, in one of those videos that's like floating around YouTube from back in the day, Kelly is like on record saying, you know, I'm the second lead. You know, so like I, in some ways she also maybe put herself there. So I don't know. What were you gonna say, Cece?
The only thing that I want to add to this conversation, which I think is kind of important, is one, I agree with you, right? Like Beyonce was the lead singer of the group. Kelly was second lead. Like that was the roles that they played in the group and all of that. But one of the things that I want people to remember, and like I'm a huge Destiny's Child fan, you probably know this about me. I love me some Beyonce. But back in the day when Destiny's Child was at its height and things were sketchy, right? Like we saw Latoya and Latavia leave. Then we had Michelle and Farrah come in. Then Farrah left, and then we had just Michelle. Beyonce took a lot of heat. In fact, the media made her out to be just a complete diva, horrible human being. And so, in some ways, like it's almost better to not be the Beyonce because she took so much crap because she was the lead singer and her dad was management and all of this stuff. And so I think it's kind of interesting that we often think about the highlights and all of that, but like there was a lot of pain that came with that role for Beyonce as well. I know she's spoken publicly about the depression that she dealt with as a result of that. So it's interesting that it felt that way for Kelly when we know that being in the forefront of things had its own pain and drama and issues, you know.
Facts. And I just also want to just say that, you know, I think that I know like as a performer, every role is necessary. Like it wouldn't be there if it wasn't necessary. Like I was watching a clip of them singing, was it what was the medley that they had?
The gospel medley.
Yeah, the gospel medley, right? I was trying to sing just now, y'all heard. Anyways, but I was listening to that and like literally Kelly comes in last, right? And she comes in like a whole choir by herself. Like, girl, you got the vocal, okay? Like, don't even play. But I think that sometimes just this idea, like, especially as like an actor, I know a lot of times you're like, oh, but I just need the lead role. I just need the lead role. But like, you can't have a lead role without having your supporting cast. So like, every role is important, you know?
Word.
You know what I mean? Okay, so now y'all know this happened like a couple of weeks ago. So I was wondering, you know, y'all know Beyonce don't be really telling her business. She don't be coming out there like that. But if she did, what do you guys think that Beyonce's reaction was to like hearing Kelly? Because y'all know you heard it, right? So like, what do you think her reaction was to hearing Kelly admit that for a decade she had this weight on her? Any one of you, Cece, I guess you.
Well, I'll say this, you know, one, I don't think it's a surprise, right? When Dirty Laundry came out, that was like a very public part. I mean, even though Kelly just like poured her heart and soul and told us about all this trauma that she experienced, like the sound bite of that song was all about her feeling less than in relationship to her relationship with Beyonce, right? And so I don't think that this is a surprise for Beyonce. I'm pretty sure that they've had the conversation in the past, you know what I'm saying? What I love though about Kelly and Beyonce is that through this long period of time, they've maintained a friendship and a real respect and adoration for each other and what they bring to the table. So I don't see Beyonce like being taken aback or being surprised or anything like that. If anything, like if I were in her shoes, I'm obviously not, but if I was in her shoes, like I would have probably sent her a text like, hey girl, I love that advice that you gave to your contestant on The Voice. Like it's so brave and vulnerable of you to share that piece of yourself. I know we've talked about it, you know, from time to time, but for you to be able to share that publicly, like mad respect, I love you. You know, like that's what I imagine the conversation would be like, but I mean, how the hell would I know?
Word. What do you think, Shells? How do you think Beyonce reacted to this? We can't hear you.
We
Sorry.
can't hear you. Nope.
Maybe your headphones might have came out.
Uh-oh.
Well, while Shells gets her mic back on, I agree kind of with Cece, like that. I think that Beyonce and Kelly and Michelle probably too, because I feel like Michelle's in there. You know, Michelle gets the worst, first of all, because she's not even the second lead. She like, people don't even really consider her a part of Destiny's Child, which is ridiculous, right? Or like a part of the group, like, which is crazy. You know, and she gets a lot of the heat. Okay. And I think Michelle is amazing, has a beautiful voice. So okay, but anyways, but I think that they probably had a conversation, right? Like you say, before time ago, like probably were kids, honestly. Like you can't really be a part of a group like that and like knowing how each other feels and not, not have a conversation around it. So I definitely think that they probably had a conversation. And I think Beyonce honestly probably was like, probably maybe felt proud of her friend for like saying it out to the world and doing it in a way that was motivating to help someone else. Because I believe that, that's what Beyonce, if she was on the other side, like what she would have been wanting to do, like try to help someone else get further in their career by using her experience. So that's what I think. What you think, Shells?
Can y'all hear me now?
Yeah, you can hear you.
You still can't hear me? You can hear me?
Can.
Okay. So I was saying that I couldn't hear the conversation because you guys kept freezing. So obviously y'all was able to continue talking. So I don't know what the question was.
Okay, so I was just asking, what did you think? How did you think Beyonce reacted to Kelly's making this announcement or like making this admission on The Voice, like on TV?
I mean, I think that, like Cece said, they probably had this conversation before, so it probably wasn't new to her. And I feel like maybe she probably reached out to Kelly and in support of her to let her know that's not how it is. Because I mean they've been friends for what 30 something years, a long time. So I don't think that she would have reacted any like differently, like weird or anything. I think she would have been, or she probably was very supportive.
Yeah, she probably was. And also because Beyonce has a history for like standing up for her friends and like especially like her sister, and I know she considers Kelly like her sister. And people have done the same thing to Solange. Think about Solange being the younger sister, like always being in that role of like, Beyonce is my big sister. And she's, gone to people and be like, don't ever say that about my sister again. Don't ever, like they had a song, I forget the name of the song. You might remember CC, where someone was like, why would you have Solange when you could have Beyonce? Like they said that in a song. And it was like a rapper, I forget which rapper it was. But anyways, Beyonce was like, not publicly. She went and she told them, like, pulled them to the side and was like, listen, don't you ever speak like that about my sister again. Because like, she is who she is. And that's it. And I am who I am. And we're totally two different people. And why have Beyonce when you could have Solange? And I really respected Beyonce for doing that. So yeah. I think she probably reacted the same way with Kelly's kind of situation.
I think you bring up a really interesting point, right? Because with the Solange comparison, because I don't remember when this came out, but it came out maybe a couple of years back where Mama Tina came out and said that she put Solange and Beyonce in therapy, right? Because she didn't want them to create that kind of dissonance in their relationship, right? As one is working on her career in one way and one is working on her career in another way, and the comparisons in the media coming up, she didn't want there to be issues there. So I think it's really interesting. And I think it relates to Kelly in that we have to always do the inner work, right? Like when the comparison trap comes in, when we start feeling like maybe we're not good enough, when that, those BS stories start popping up in our head, we have to do the work that it takes to get us to that next level, whatever that is, right? And so I think it's really powerful that they came out and shared that story, that, it wasn't that Solange and Beyonce just had this incredible bond and they never had to do any work. No, they had to actually work on themselves so that they could exist in the space that would compare them. And I think that that's, such an important lesson, not only for Kelly, but I think for all of us, right? Like when I'm working with my coaching clients, there's always some BS story. It's never the truth, right? But we start to internalize and believe these things and decide that that's what our reality is, right? So I think that was a really good comparison that you talk about, the launch part. And I think for Kelly, I'm sure at some point she had to go inward and make do some of that work herself so that she could recognize, what, damn it, I'm Kelly freaking Rowland, right?
A lot of people that would want to be Kelly freaking Rowland, and there's a lot of people that want to be themselves and still trying to figure that out. So, and I think it's good what you said. Like, you do have to really, with anything when you're dealing with, like being in feeling like you're not enough. Like you have to kind of go into yourself and figure out, like, okay, listen, these are the reasons why I am enough, and I'm more than enough. And you gotta also like come from a place of gratitude, and know, like, because like there's so many things that we could find wrong with ourselves or compared to someone else. And at some point you have to go like, okay, but wait, what are all the amazing things about me? Like, what can I do? And these are the things that make you different. There will never be another Kelly Rowland, right? Just like there'll never be another CeCe Chaney or Shelly Shells or Sharice Paris. Okay, there will never be. Right. Or Shanika Paris, who's not with us right now, but there'll never be. Like, there's only you, and you just have to find those unique things about you and love them. You know what I'm talking about? Love them. Anyways, y'all, we done got to the preaching. Okay, but that doesn't mean, just because all of that has been said, that doesn't mean that your feelings aren't valid. So I want to know, sisters, because y'all know we are sisters. And a lot of times, like, these types of situations come up where you do feel like you are being maybe compared to one another, especially us being, 4 girls, 4 sisters. Have you ever had a time where you felt like you needed to sort of create your own identity, your own separation from your siblings or even your friends, I guess, maybe? Like for instance, Kelly talked about feeling like she couldn't wear the same kind of dress or make the same kind of music because she would be compared. And so she was trying to separate her identity from Beyonce, from that connection. Have you guys ever had that feeling of like trying to separate your identity from our group or another group that you might have been a part of?
No, I've never felt like I had to separate myself from us, because we all have our own individual goals and our own individual talents that we're good at, and we recognize that in each other. However, I did have a situation with a family member who, because I have lupus, it took me a long time to get my college degree, and I had a relative say, "Ooh, CeCe graduated first. Ooh, look what CeCe's doing," and it made me feel kind of like, dang, at least I'm persevering. Like, I'm still going. I'm still making, still achieving things. I'm just doing it slower. But yeah, that's the only thing I could think of that made me like I was compared to CeCe by another family member. But other than that, I think between us, I've never felt that way between us.
Yeah, and sometimes it's those outside forces, that just like, who you? Okay. Like, and I just want to make a mini correction to what you said, Shelly Shells. So you weren't doing it slower. You were doing it at your own pace, at what was right for you, girl. Okay. That's them. Anyway, sorry. We live.
I'm sitting here going, who said this? Why did I not know about this? What? So, let me know after we're done with this. I want to know exactly who it was that had this conversation. I think it's really interesting, the point that you bring up, which is that it's almost always like it's either like your ego telling you some crap, right? Like your own little mind, like just starting to kind of go, or someone external of you saying something that can start to seep in, and then all of a sudden you start going, is that true? Let me look, like, oh my gosh, how do I feel about this? And so it's really interesting that that's the story that you bring up, because I think that that's a lot of people's experiences. Somebody says something and it starts to sort of like sneak in there, and really sort of have the potential of having a negative impact. But it sounds like you knew better than that, which is really great. I, on the other hand, I don't really think that I had a sense in the same way about within our sisterhood of feeling like in the shadow or less than. But I growing up, I had this sense that I needed to shrink myself, and I don't know where that came from. I'm still doing some of the work around some of that too, and not necessarily.
Uh-oh, I think she froze.
See, that's what happened earlier. Y'all both were freezing on me. I didn't know what was going on.
Well, I hope we can still be live.
That might make me. Did you lose me?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, you froze for a sec.
You froze.
Where was I?
You said
you had stopped. You shrunk yourself, and you didn't know where that came from. And then
I was saying, like, I would shrink certain parts of me, like some of the creative parts of me, and because, I think I started to assign different roles to different people, right? So like Sharice was the artistic one and the sporty one, that kind of a thing. And like Rochelle was the first child. And so I have this whole idea about her being the favorite, And so for me, I sort of carved out this identity that I was going to be the smart one, right? Like I'm just going to excel at school, and that's where I'm going to focus, And so, but it did take a huge part of my identity, right? And it also shrunk other areas of my life, which I've since realized, like, wait a minute, you get to be creative, you get to be sporty, you get to be, amazing and the favorite, you know what I'm saying? So, and I think in a lot of ways, well, not as, well, Shawnee's not on this call. I'm kidding. But you know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm saying? That you can, that sense that, hey, I can be the best. I can be, I'm just as lovable. You know what I'm saying? Because that's what it is at the end of the day. Like, it's how lovable am I? Am I lovable enough? You know what I'm saying? So I think that's where it came from me. I sort of created these one-dimensional roles for each of us, and then put myself in a box. That's something that I had to break free of.
Yeah, I mean, I think that a lot, like that can happen a lot, especially because for some reason, I don't know what it is, but for some reason I think as humans, we categorize ourselves as far as like what we're allowed to do, what we don't do, like what works for us and what doesn't work. And then once we put ourselves in those boxes or in those spaces, it's like really hard for us to go out and explore anything else, because it's like, no, but I'm a doctor, I can't write a play. Like, why not? Like, Shelly, you just started acting, like, like you weren't acting before for like your entire life, and then now you're like, okay, girl, I'm an actor, let's do this. You know what I mean? So like, I think it's beautiful that we are in a space like that us, our sisterhood is in a space where we're open to exploring more. That's beautiful. I mean, I love it. But anyways, that was a side note. For me, Cece, I was gonna tell you, I think I know where the shrinking thing came from, because we had that family member.
Make yourself small. That's where you're going?
Yeah.
I had a conversation with myself a couple of weeks ago about this, right? I have been working really hard at my personal development. It's like really important to me that I'm growing and that I'm changing and I'm morphing into the human that I want to be, and taking up the space I desire and all of that. And that came up for me a couple of weeks ago. We have an uncle who I didn't even know well, right? But this thing has sat with me for a really long time. I mean, I remember it very vividly. And it came up just a few weeks ago. And one of the things that he used to say to the kids was, make yourself small, right? Meaning you stay in your place as a child, and as adults, we're going to be over here. You go and hide and make yourself small. And that, am I frozen again? Because you guys aren't moving very much. Okay, no, that really, I mean, I really had to look at that and say, holy cannoli, the things that we say to children, the things that we say to young people, we have to be so careful and so cautious, the messages that we internalize, because that's what I did for 30 years. I made myself small. And, it's frightening when you think about it. But if I wasn't doing the work, right? If I didn't hire coaches, if I wasn't doing all these things, I would still be playing small. You would never see me. You wouldn't be doing this thing right now, because that's the role I was told to take up. And so I think that's a sort of a cautionary tale. I don't think that his intention was to make us shrink ourselves in that way, but that's one of those things, you know, when you're young and you're the people around you are telling you things, you have to be really cautious, especially with children.
Absolutely. And I think that that might have been some of the thing that kind of stuck with Kelly as well, is like, you know, you have to remember they were like kids, they were like 12 and 13, and like they were teenagers, the same age that we were being told to make ourselves small. You know, she probably was being told, you know, like, you know, make yourself small, and maybe in a different way. And again, I don't think that the intention was, you know, to, you know, play with our psyche and actually make us feel like, okay, you need to shrink yourself. In fact, the way you interpreted it was not even how I had interpreted it. I interpreted it as like, you know, we're trying to all four of us fit in the back seat of the car. So it's like, make yourself, you know, like smaller, like physically. And no, but do you know what? And it's so interesting because like I found that in my acting, I had spent a lot of my acting time making myself small on stage. And so making and going into audition rooms and being like, I only get to take up this amount of space. I don't get to be all over all these places. I only get to be here. And actually that's really detrimental, you know, to acting, because acting is about living and moving and breathing. And then you're just like, you know, super tense. So I never, you know, like I never really thought of it how you thought of it, but it's so interesting how the same words can affect people differently. You know what I mean?
From the same person, right? Not just the same, not like you heard it from someone else, right? We heard it from the same person at the same time, and we internalized it in other ways. For me, that meant like, shut the hell up, like go and be small in the corner, go be a kid, and you don't get to show up and have that voice and have that opinion. I mean, it really quieted my voice. So it's really interesting that you took it as a physical situation. That's amazing. I'm loving this conversation. I want us to continue it offline because I'm like, whoa.
Word. But yeah, so like for me, yeah, I never really felt like I had like I was living necessarily in anyone else's shadow. But I did feel a really big need to make myself different. Yeah, I remember I used to wear my hair all crazy. And well, some people
mismatched earrings.
I used to wear mismatched earrings, mismatched socks, like, you know, like everything. I just remember putting like foil in my mouth, making grills, like, you know, like, but just trying to be different. Like, and I don't know if it was because of like being like one of the four girls, one of the four sisters, and like where I'm like, okay, but like I need to stand out, or I need to be different, or who am I? But I do remember always trying to create this sort of separate identity, which was really interesting, especially, or maybe I was just playing with characters and I didn't know what that was at the time. Maybe that's what I was doing. Who knows? But yeah, it's really interesting that, okay. So just switching gears a little bit back to Kelly and Beyoncé and Destiny's Child. I kind of think I already know the answer to this question, but I'm going to ask it anyways. Do you guys think that Kelly is currently in Beyonce's shadow? And if so, why? And if not, why? And I'll say this, some people have argued that everybody is in Beyonce's shadow.
I've heard that. I've heard that argument.
So, okay. So what do you guys think, Shelly?
I don't think that Kelly is still in, or quote unquote, still in Beyonce's shadow. She's made her own way on in the music career. She has her own family. She's doing her own thing. She's on TV. Like, she's living her own life. So I don't think that she's living in Beyonce's shadow, because now Beyonce is Beyonce, Kelly is Kelly, Michelle is Michelle, Latoya is Latoya. Like, I follow all of them individually. So no, I don't think she's living in anybody's shadow.
Word.
She's just living her life.
I totally agree. Here's my thing. We live in this abundant universe, right? Like, there's not like the Beyonce part of the pie and then every other person gets what's left. Like, I just don't believe that. I think that's total and utter BS. I think that Kelly has created a lane for herself that is Kelly Rowland, and that is an abundant lane, right? She's gotten all kinds of incredible opportunities. I was listening to some of her music last night. Like, I literally was jamming out that new Coffee song is like everything, and she looks freaking gorgeous as all be. Like, I'm dying for her body. It's so incredible. And I just think that people who are attracted to Kelly are Kelly's people. And some of those people are also Beyonce's people. And some of those people are also Kelly Clarkson's people. Like, I just don't think that that is a thing. I think that there will be people who will compare. I think there will always be the media creating that sort of dissonance because that's what, you know, what's attractive in the media, right? It's usually some sort of negative slant, but I don't believe any of this crap about, oh, we're all in Beyonce's shadow. My opinion is if Kelly had that vision and had that desire to create the career that Beyonce has, and she was hungry for it and she went after it, she would have it. That's not what she wanted for herself. That's not her vision for herself. And so who am I to tell her that what she's created isn't enough? I just don't see that at all.
Yeah, I agree with both of you. You both brought up some of the points that I was going to bring up. Just that, you know, Kelly is doing her own thing. Like, she's got this, you know, she has her own albums. You know, she's got Coffee. Coffee also is like a show that she does. Like, she does like interviews and podcast kind of thing as well. So she's doing that. Of course, she's on The Voice. And she's been on Empire. She's been on The Game. Like, she's been on lots of different shows. Like, she's done guest starring roles. Like, she's like a whole human in her, you know, in her own. Like, why does she gotta be, you know, like, it's not like, like, Beyonce is amazing, but so is Kelly, so is Michelle, so is Solange, and there's a whole host of other amazing people. And I think that like, yes, it's fun, I guess, not fun. It's on trend or something to be constantly comparing. Like, even, everything is compared, right? Even if you go grocery shopping, you know, they've got the red apples next to the pink lady apples, and then this and that. And then, you know, on Amazon, you can click whatever to compare it. Like, and we do so much comparing in our society that, like, it's almost natural now for us to compare humans, which is horrible, and we should stop immediately. Like, because, like, we're all different, you know what I mean? Me personally, like, I'm super proud of Kelly right now for, like, just I believe she's taking the lead role in her life, and that's all that you can ask a person to do. You know, I think she's broken that BS story, like you say, CC, of thinking that she was second lead, and she's now taking the main role in her life. And I'm really proud of her for doing that. So that's it. That's what it is. So, guys, that's the story with Kelly. with Kelly Rowland, the one and the only, who also, by the way, let's just not forget the amazing song that she made with Nelly, okay? Because that will forever. Exactly. That will
She was
forever
the
be.
breakout star of Destiny's Child. She was the first one to come out with the hit song, Dilemma with Nelly. Yes, girl, love, love, love.
I'm just saying. Okay, so anyways, all right, I just needed to make sure I said that. But anyways, guys, that's it. We appreciate you guys so much for listening and joining us for What's That? Sister chat. That's right. We couldn't hear you, Shelly. I don't know what happened, but yeah, we really appreciate you guys. Please go ahead and put in the comments how you guys are feeling about this situation with Kelly, and what do you think? Is Kelly in Beyonce's shadow in your opinion? You guys know how we feel, so say the right thing. Nah, I'm playing. Anyways, guys, it's been amazing. If you'd like to join the sisterhood, make sure that you like, subscribe, and share this video. Make sure you leave a comment in the comments below. And if you want to know how to get in touch with us, our contact information is on our main page on our YouTube channel. But we appreciate you guys. We love you. And that's all for now. We'll see you next week. Bye.